We are honored now to be joined by Dr. Rod Priestley, Dean of the Graduate School at Princeton University and Professor of Chemical and Biological Engineering. Good to see you, Professor.
Great to see you too, Steve. Delighted to be here.
You got it. I'm going to jump right into this. You have been involved in innovation research, hold several patents, right?
Correct.
One of them is around a water purification system. Talk to us about what that is, because Newsweek made a big deal about it, because it is a big deal. Please, Dr. Priestley.
Great. What we developed in my lab was a new material that allows you to purify water from impaired sources, not utilizing electricity, but utilizing sunlight. So you can think of it like a big sponge. When you bring this sponge in contact with an impaired water source, it absorbs only pure water and filters out all of the impurities, say all of the leads, all of the nitrates, all of the bacteria. Then when you take this sponge and you expose it to sunlight, it squeezes out all of that pure water. So now you have access to pure water. And the beauty again about this technology is that you can run it off a sustainable energy source, and it's also modular. So you can scale it up, but you can also use it as point of source.
Have you always been fascinated by science, biology, engineering, et cetera? Have you always been fascinated by it?
I have. When I think about my earliest moments in school, in elementary school, I can recall being fascinated by science, and in particular, chemistry. And I remember when I was in high school, my high school chemistry teacher, Miss Harrison, who I remember very fondly of, used to write handwritten notes and send them home to my mother and say that Rod should go into chemistry. I never thought I would, and surprisingly I did. And not chemistry itself, say, but chemical engineering, which really merged my interests in chemistry as well as kind of the quantitative sciences.
Where'd you grow up?
Houston, Texas.
Wonderful. So try this one. I'm curious about the connection between academia, research, innovation, and entrepreneurship. Complicated, I know. Please share.
Excellent. Look, when I think about this is about Princeton fulfilling its informal motto and being in the nation's service and in the service of humanity. Academic institutions like Princeton have been beacons of knowledge generation. But we have a responsibility to make sure that that knowledge that we develop makes it out into the real world and have an impact. And so when you speak about this complex connection between research, innovation, and entrepreneurship, what we're trying to do is bring our research that we do here on campus closer to the communities that we are part of. And one of the ways we can think about doing that, and one of the quickest ways we can think about doing that, is through something called academic entrepreneurship.
Academic entrepreneurship, go ahead.
Yes. This is where our faculty and our students who develop the technology, who develop the ideas, are part of the creation of a new company that brings that technology to the marketplace.
So I'm going to follow up on this. The impact of what you're describing, this kind of innovation, entrepreneurship, creativity, research, the impact on the, quote, New Jersey economy. Can you quantify it or clarify it, please?
Definitely. Let's think about it this way. When a faculty member or a Princeton student creates a new company, that new company, we hope, becomes local in New Jersey. And in fact, we've developed spaces within the region in which Princeton faculty can create these companies. Not only does the student who's trained at Princeton stay in New Jersey and create this company, but they then hire locally and they bring in talent to help build these companies, to further develop the technology. And so when you think about this connection, it is seamless. We go from research to innovation to entrepreneurship. That leads to the creation of new ventures, new startups in town. We have to then recruit talent to actually come and work at those startups. And so thereby you can see the connection to academic entrepreneurship and economic development, job creation, et cetera.
Dr. Priestley, what is I-Corps?
Yes, I-Corps is actually a federally mandated program that's run by the National Science Foundation, which is one of the largest funding arms for the American government. And so I-Corps is the National Science Foundation's program to help faculty and students decide whether or not the technology and the research that they are developing actually has commercial opportunity. And if it does have commercial opportunity, then the National Science Foundation supports Princeton faculty and their students to actually create startups. And so again, when you think about something like the National Science Foundation, which has a storied history of supporting basic fundamental research, they also have a vested interest in seeing that research have an impact on society. And I-Corps is step one in which NSF actually brings faculty together and allow them to do customer discovery, business market development on their research to see whether or not there is, in fact, a research or commercial opportunity.
Doctor, do you sense, we just did had this discussion on the future of higher education with folks from different perspectives, including the Secretary of Higher Education. But I'm curious about this. Do you believe that more and more institutions of higher learning, Princeton just being one of them, a special, unique one, but one of many, that are looking at what they do and how they do it in dramatically different ways so that what they do and how they do it has a much greater impact from a, dare I say, applied research perspective as opposed to a purely, exclusively theoretical research perspective? I know you know where I'm coming from.
Yes, and I'll answer this in two parts. The first part is yes, institutions like Princeton are thinking about how their research can have a greater impact. And a lot of this is driven by our students. A lot of this is driven by our faculty. They want to see a closer connection to the work that they're doing in the labs and the impact that it can have on society. The other point that I'll make is that academic institutions, even if they're doing fundamental research, the impact and implications are there. It just may not be so clear and say, or immediate within say 2 to 5 years. But academic research, whether or not, translational or foundational, sets the basis for future technologies. Those future technologies can be a few years away, or those future technologies can be 30 years away, things that we're not even thinking about yet. But the groundwork has to be laid via basic academic research.
Well said. You've joined us for the first time, Dr. Priestley. I hope it will not be on the last. Dr. Rod Priestley is Dean of the Graduate School at Princeton University and also Professor of Chemical and Biological Engineering. Professor, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
I'm Steve Adubato. We thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Think Tank with Steve Adubato has been a production of the CAUCUS Educational Corporation. Funding has been provided by New Jersey Institute of Technology, Operating Engineers, Local 825, Choose New Jersey, IBEW Local 102, Eastern Atlantic States Regional Council of Carpenters, the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, Holy Name, and by NJM Insurance Group. Promotional support provided by NJBIZ and by New Jersey Globe.
Hello, I'm Dr. Luke Ironman, a family medicine specialist at Holy Name. When was your last visit to your primary care doctor? Throughout the pandemic, many patients have put off their annual physicals and screenings, but preventative health care is critical for early detection of illnesses and to avoid future health problems. Your doctor can also help you develop a wellness plan to achieve your personal health goals. Your health can't wait. Be proactive and talk to your primary care doctor today about scheduling your annual physical.